Greetings, we are the DVD Geeks. I am Matthew.
And I'm Harrison.
We're back for episode number 5, and today we are coming to you from the very beautiful Park Cafe in Maysville, Kentucky. Just a beautiful, wonderful little coffee shop right here in downtown Maysville. And Harrison has already just completed, 2 hours of old-time fiddle music?
3 hours.
3 hours of old-time fiddle music here, and so we are set and ready to go.
Ready, guys.
Today we're going to review 2 very diverse movies.
That's right.
Different parts of the spectrum here, and I'm going to let Harrison begin. Go ahead,
I'll
Harrison.
take us away here, Matt. I wanted to talk to you guys today about a film by a Canadian-American director, Robert Eggers. This is his directorial debut. And this is a horror movie or psychological thriller called The Witch. Came out in 2015. Eggers, he won an award for this film at the 2015 Sundance Film Festival. And he is supposedly working on a remake of Nosferatu.
Ooh,
so
that could be good.
I think he's kind of found his,
He's got his
found
niche.
his calling.
He's got his niche, yeah.
Now, The Witch, this is a movie that follows a Puritan family and their encounter with a witch and this darkness that lives beyond a tree line in their very isolated homestead in New England. And my first observation about this film, the color palette is just extraordinarily bleak. It's
gray.
It's as close to grayscale as you could. It's almost black and white.
Right, and I will mention too that I have seen, I've watched it on Harrison's recommendation.
Talked him into it.
Talk me into it.
And this grayscale, it really just it complements the dreary sort of atmosphere of the film and the ominous sort of atmosphere of the film. Very interesting, very interesting take on color in this film.
Right.
Camera shots. Speaking of camera, camera angles and shots are also very interesting in this film. We see a lot of Eggers really does a throwback to kind of a retro style of horror movie filming.
Yeah.
Kind of the behind the shoulder
head
shot. Yeah. And it just really makes for a very, very tense. You kind of are eternally on the edge of your seat, thinking that something terrible is going to happen.
I was telling you earlier, my heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
My heartbeat was elevated the entire time I watched this, which is strange.
It is. It's odd.
The anticipation
Right.
of what's going to happen.
Oh, it's very. Eggers will mess with you with his camera. You think that something terrible is going to happen, and it doesn't. It keeps on going. Just this eternal. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And it's really keeps you on edge. And the same thing is true for the soundtrack.
Yes.
And Matthew and I both thought that was just wonderfully done.
Stellar.
Soundtrack. Yeah.
And it really kind of sets that mood.
Oh, it does. Very reminiscent of films like Psycho with this intense climactic music, but then Eggers. Nothing happens.
Yeah, nothing happens.
Oh, it's very. And I should say, we're kind of saying that there's some parts that aren't necessarily scary, with the.
Right.
But this film is definitely.
Yeah, this is not your Friday the 13th slasher type thing. I think really, wasn't there only like 2 or 3 scenes where there's even anything considered gore?
I think that very,
tastefully done.
Tastefully done, and the gore, like you said, there's only maybe 1 or 2 gore scenes. So it kind of made me wonder what makes this film scary.
Yeah.
And it's this bizarre, it's this Puritan family, and I don't want to get into what happens. There's an encounter with a witch, clearly. Yeah. But I think that the fear is found not necessarily in the violence in this film. The film.
Keep going, keep going. We'll keep going. One thing I was going to mention too that I thought was really interesting to maybe kind of take us back here was that the whole idea of this was psychological.
Yeah.
You know, for a horror film, most people when you say horror, they're thinking Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not at all. Not at all.
It reminds me of the story, the Crucible.
Yeah, the Crucible.
In that it's not necessarily about the witchcraft or the black magic or the gore or the scary. It's about the reality of a family falling apart. It's about ostracization.
Yeah.
It's about it's just about people being singled out in society. It's about true evil and humanity.
Oh yeah.
It's very, very, very scary.
And quite a bit of that.
Quite a bit of that. Yeah, definitely a gripping film. Interesting take on a horror movie.
Yeah, definitely. So, recommendation-wise, probably 16 or older, or would you even go 18 or older?
It bothered me enough. I think it's 18.
18 and over.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
I know that 16, 18 is kind of loose anymore
Yeah.
these days, with movies and so forth. But
It was a rough one.
yeah, it was definitely one that made you had mentioned made you think the next day.
Right. It's not going to, some films keep you up that night.
Yeah.
This one you think about like on the drive home from work on the day after,
You see something moving in the woods and you're like, there it is.
There it is.
She's coming for me, or something like that. Any big names in this one?
Well, I think the only big name that I can that I picked up on is Kate Dickie. She's a Scottish actor, and she played Lysa Arryn in Game of Thrones.
It's interesting, aren't we seeing all these Game of Thrones characters or actors in other movies and stuff right now?
We need a Game of Thrones episode.
A Game of Thrones episode is coming soon too.
This is all based on Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Everything
absolutely.
comes to Game of Thrones.
It all goes back to Game of Thrones. Anything else on
That's
that one?
it. I'll leave it with that. Matthew? What's your pick for that?
Okay, well, since we've gone horror
Yeah.
and kind of psychological, I'm going to the other side of the earth right now for you. I'm going animated this week with
What?
Yes, with the Peanuts movie, which was actually released in 2015. The DVD was released in 2016. This is, of course, a modern remake of the Charles Schulz comic strip that we're all so very, very familiar with. It was interesting. I kind of went to see what some of the other let the truck go by. Okay. It was kind of interesting. I let some of the New York Times, and I went to New York Times, Washington Post, because I kind of wanted to see what they said about it before I, kind of gave my estimation on what I thought. And the New York Times said it was probably the most charming and most daring experiment in human genetics ever conducted. Now, I understand what they're going with there because, this is a time-honored comic. It's a time-honored universe by a lot of people. And I remember when the first rumblings of the Peanut movie came out. Oh gosh, don't mess this up. Don't mess this beautiful world that, we're familiar with, a Charlie Brown Christmas and,
Sure.
the quaintness and the beauty of that.
Classic, yeah.
The classic. I want to read a quote from the Washington Post. This captures it so well. I hate to read quotes, but today you're getting that from me. This was directed by Steve Martino, and the Washington Post said he captured the emotions that made Peanuts so meaningful, masterfully replicating Schultz's hand-drawn expressions, including Charlie Brown when he would sigh, Sally with her smiles and exasperated looks, Lucy with her yells. And he goes on to say the filmmakers also stay true to the timelessness of Schultz's world. And I think that's very, very important. This is the first Peanuts movie in 35 years. So it's been a long, long time.
That is a bold move
to redo that. Yeah, because for me, I grew up with Peanuts. We had Charlie Brown books and comic books and all that kind of stuff, and the Charlie Brown Christmas and the Great Pumpkin. That was just
absolutely.
That was it. Still is for me. I can't go through Christmas without watching Charlie Brown Christmas. This is a two-part movie. There's two plots that are going on in the movie. First one is Snoopy, who really, honestly, in my estimation, steals the show.
Yeah,
always has.
Snoopy
always has. But he is fighting an age-old nemesis. I'm not going to give any spoilers on who that is. And then the second part is Charlie Brown searching for love. with the little redheaded girl, which we're all familiar. I think one of the reasons why this movie stayed so true to what was built in this universe that Charles Schultz had, back in the 60s, was that his son and his grandson, they wrote the script. So they knew, this is where it should go, and they really ensured that it stayed true to the characters and to the world, and
kind of passing on the torch.
Passing on the torch kind of thing. All the characters are there, Snoopy, Charlie Brown, Linus, all of them are there. But the interesting thing is, this is done in today's animation. And I think that was the comment from New York Times about this, whole genetic thing. They've changed. They look the same, but they're modern. It's more of a Pixar type of thing, if you want to look at it that way. The voice acting was eerie.
Really?
The boy that does the voice acting for Charlie Brown is dead on. Same with each and every one of them. They were all just actually amazingly true to the originals, and I thought that was really good. Another interesting thing about it too, that I found really interesting, was that Snoopy, they did not get a new voice actor for Snoopy. What they did, the original guy that did it was a guy by the name of Bill Melendez, who is now passed on. They went back and took all of his original recordings.
You're kidding me.
and reused them for Snoopy.
Wow,
it's really kind
wild.
of a nice throwback and a nice tribute, to that guy. So the voice acting is great. The dance scene. I don't know if you're familiar with Charlie Brown Christmas, when they're doing the play and they're all doing that dance. They recreate the dance scene perfectly in this movie with a couple of new people with a couple of, how can I say it, fresh and funky moves. So that's a very important thing. So, and one thing, here's another. This is a DVD Geek trivia moment. In the movie, this is not giving away too much spoiler, Charlie Brown writes a book report. Guess what book he writes? War and Peace.
Oh, you're kidding.
From episode number 4, DVD Geeks on YouTube. Yeah, so War and Peace, and it's very interesting because he gets the book from the library and it's about this thick. So
it's not too far from the truth.
It's not too far from the truth. Watch our last episode and look at the book on the table. You'll see. So anyway, to kind of wrap this up, why should you watch the Peanuts? Or did you have something?
Because you might want to watch Peanuts. A great reason to watch that would be if you just watch The Witch and you kind of just.
Yeah, if you need to come down, if you really need to come down after watching The Witch. Very good point, Harrison. Very good point.
Sorry.
No, that's perfect. I would say nostalgia is a big part of this. They kind of prove that you can take a classic, and a classic that people say don't mess with, and recreate it without destroying it. And to me, it was like putting on a comfortable pair of shoes. 48 years old, and I still love Peanuts. I was excited when this came out, and it still felt good for me. Another thing, and you'll see this in a lot of animated films these days, adult humor.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of adult humor in there. I mean, in Peanuts, there is a scene where there is a discussion about diversified portfolios. Not exactly what you'd expect in a Peanuts movie, but adults would get a good chuckle out of that.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing would be just family friendly. This is a movie you can take the family to, or you can watch with your family, and you can introduce kids of today's generation to something that was very special to generations past. And I hope they continue it. I hope they go with another one sometime in the future. They did the whole universe justice.
Really?
So yeah. So that's my take. My pick is the Peanuts movie. And then Harrison?
The Witch.
The Witch. We are very diverse this week. Very, very diverse this week.
Two heads of the coin, man.
Two heads of the coin, definitely. And it's been kind of fun experimenting with the outdoor setting here at Park Cafe in Maysville. And if you're in Maysville, great place to stop by. Wonderful coffee.
That's right.
Wonderful coffee, and for me, of course, wonderful sweet tea.
Signature.
Great
signature.
Sandwiches and fruit and all kinds of things. Just a great place, and we thank them for allowing us to use their place today to film our video. So.
DVD
Number 5 is in the books. You know, pretty soon we're going to be talking about number 50.
I know.
Because this thing is just taking off.
It's only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time. And we appreciate you guys watching. We are the DVD Geeks. We are signing off. Take care.
This film. The film. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Fan club.
Fan club.
Fan club.
Fan
Yeah.
club, man.
Yeah.
Kind of lost my train of thought.
That's okay. Yeah, I did too.